Hey guys, James Wilson Taylor here for Rock Sound. It is the latest of our video calls. We have been chatting to everybody while we're all at home, and once again we are joined by, from the Pretty Reckless, it's Taylor. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you, man?
Not too bad, not too bad. Nice to see you again. Yeah, and we'll start these off, as we always do, saying, hope you're still staying safe, hope you're still staying well, and all this madness we're happening in the world. It's kind of cool since the last time we spoke, seeing you guys have been super, super active. We'll come on to the album in a second, which is, of course, imminent at the time of recording. But online and everything feels like you guys have really dived in with the live performances, all that kind of stuff. Tell me a little bit about some of that work you've been doing.
We've been trying. We've been trying to keep up with these crazy modern times we're living in. But it's actually been kind of, kind of refreshing in a strange way. It's actually been kind of fun to do something a little different than, if we weren't to put a positive spin on the madness that is the world right now. If we had, released the album last year, we would have been on tour right now, which would have been great, but we would have been kind of in that grind and that cycle. And because, we can't tour and we're limited to what we can do, it's actually allowed for some very kind of creative pieces of music and collaborations and things that wouldn't have come to fruition if we weren't in the situation. I've gotten to work with some amazing artists and musicians that I love and do covers of songs, which isn't really my thing. Like I don't really do that very often. That's been really kind of unique. Like I did The Keeper with the amazing Elaine Johannes. He recorded his part in Chile and I recorded mine in Maine, and then it magically comes together with this wonderful thing called technology. Or Halfway There with Matt Cameron, or most recently I just did Quicksand by David Bowie with Mike Garson for the David Bowie tribute show. And so getting to be a part of things like that and work on that type of stuff has been actually quite rewarding and really cool. And versions of our own songs, like stripped back things, like we did a piano version of our song House on a Hill, which I felt the song was very fitting for the times right now. And it was also a version that I'd been wanting to record for a long time and just kind of never got around to it. So it's been quite interesting. My joke now is, as much as I love playing acoustic guitar and singing in my house, which is all good and fine, I'm very much missing electricity at this point.
Aren't we all?
Dying for live shows to come back. But but having said that, it's actually been quite fun.
Yeah, no, of course. I'm glad you mentioned the Bowie thing as well, because what an incredible event that was. I mean, that lineup was just unbelievable. Of course, everyone's going to line up and want to pay tribute to an artist of that caliber. But yeah, just tell me a little bit more about that experience, because a great choice of song for you as well there.
Thank you. It's a song that first of all, my dad is like the biggest David Bowie fan in the world. So when I told him I was going to be a part of that, he was so excited. I picked Quicksand because I'm a huge fan of, obviously I'm a huge fan of David Bowie's work, but I love listening to the demos of artists. It's something that I've always gravitated towards, like from, the Beatles demos to David Bowie demos. And there's a version of Quicksand that I heard on some bootleg that my dad had, that I don't know, but I heard when I was a kid, and I've always loved, where it's him playing Quicksand with just him and an acoustic guitar, and it kind of creates this whole other like weight to the song, and that's kind of the version that I always loved. So when the tribute show came around, and I was talking to Mike, and he's like, "What would you maybe want to do?" I was like, "Well, do you know this version? Like, do you know this? I love this. I would love to kind of put my own spin on this." And that's really kind of where it started. And obviously then Mike comes in and just the masterful, musician that he is, took it into this whole other realm. But that was kind of the initial inspiration for that version.
Yeah, worked really nicely. And again, what a lovely project to be able to get involved in while you're at home, I suppose. Something that, would have been very, very different situation if you're out on the road and stuff, I'm sure. But we should talk definitely about what we're here to talk about. It's days away at this point. By the time people see this, the album will be out there in the world. And I guess the obvious thing to say is you must be delighted to finally have these songs out there. I know you've been waiting for so long to finally be able to share this music with the world, right? It must be such a nice moment for you this week in particular.
It is. It's strange. It's very strange. Like part of me doesn't know how to, I mean, excited, absolutely. Like so excited. It's been, I feel like the longest time coming. And now I feel like it's days away and it's flying by. And I'm like, wait, it's only 3 days left. Like, oh God. So no, extraordinarily excited, but also at the same time, it's still very weird. I think it's always strange to release a record at any point in time because you spend so long on it and it's yours up until that point. It's like this little, baby or something that you've cherished and, you conceived and you raised and gave birth to, all that. And then once it's out, it's like, well, it's almost like saying goodbye to something. And so it always comes with kind of a flux of emotions, but, it's like the end of, I always kind of describe it as like the end of Christmas or something where it's like there's it's like, well, and it's over, but it's not. And that's the cool thing about music is that it lives on forever. So this is really just the beginning, and I'm so excited that people are finally able to hear it because I'm so proud of it. Like, and having to sit on it for the past year plus has been a little torturous to say the least.
Oh, I can only imagine. But I do wonder though, especially because we talked a little bit there about how you'd played with the acoustic versions of things and stuff like that. Has your perception of the record changed already? Because like you say, it's been done a while.
It's finished. It's been finished for a little over a year now, but no, not really. I think it takes a long time to have your perception of music change. I mean, I spend so long working on it that a year feels like a day in one way. So I think it will take a good 5 to 10 years for me to have enough time to sit with this album and really be able to reflect on it from an outside standpoint, because I'm still very much living inside Death by Rock and Roll, if that makes sense. Even though the album's been completed for a while, I'm still very much that person. So
yeah, well, I mean, here we are reaching the next stage now where it gets to live out there and everyone finally gets to hear it and experience it.
I know.
That's so exciting. Let's talk about a couple of tracks on there because last time we chatted, you kind of hinted at it. We weren't able to talk about it too much, but Tom Morello's track is now out there in the world, and So It Went is out there. Just tell me a little bit about putting that together because it's such a dream collaboration. I know you've known Tom for a little while. He really does fit so well into that track, doesn't he? It complements each other so well.
Well, thank you. I mean, thanks to Tom. Yeah, I know. I gotta, I mean, I don't know where to begin here. I've known, like you said, I've known Tom for quite a few years now at this point, but we really kind of reconnected a few years back at the I Am the Highway Chris Cornell tribute show in Los Angeles. We were both playing with Soundgarden on the song Loud Love, and that's kind of where we rekindled our friendship and our relationship, or whatever you want to call it. And shortly after that, we were starting to record the album, and I had written the song And So It Went, and just due to the lyrical content and the kind of overall vibe and energy of the song, it just made so much musical sense to me to send it to him and ask if he would be a part of it, because I just thought that his unique and undeniably Tom Morello sound would add such an element to the song that that it wouldn't be the same thing without him. And so I was correct. So I sent him a demo of it and I said, hey man, would you want to play on this? And he fortunately said yes. And when he sent his tracks back, we put the whole thing together. It did exactly what I thought it was going to do. He comes in wailing and it just explodes into the awesomeness that is Mr. Tom Morello. So again, thank Tom.
Yeah, I think you said last time as well, it was like something like when you hear it, it could only be Tom Morello playing. And my God, that's so right, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's what I love about, I mean, all musicians that I love, but, especially guitar players, is when you really, there's quite a few, but there's less than there should be of guitar players where their sound is so, when they play, it almost sounds like a human voice. Like they're singing with their instrument. They're expressing themselves with it in a way past just, I practiced a lot, they're really communicating with it. And that's something that I love. And Tom is certainly one of those guys who, reinvented the guitar for lack.
No, very true. Really distinctive sound. It comes across so well. And then I guess the other song I wanted to mention because it seems to have really connected with the audience is 25. And I know it's big standout moment and obviously had a big single push and everything, but it really really seems to connect with the audience. And I read somewhere, correct me if I'm wrong, was that one of the first or maybe the first song you guys wrote for the album, right? So how did that in particular set the tone, I suppose, for the rest of the record moving forward?
It's a good question. 25 was written, I wrote that when I was 24 turning 25. If I'm correct, I believe it was the first song we recorded because we recorded that right after my 25th birthday. So it was, I don't know, it was you know, it was written in a time period of my life where I was not necessarily in the healthiest of headspaces, but I was also in a very kind of reflective period of my life, especially also around a birthday. I think that, I don't know if this is just me, but I always, you know, anytime I have a birthday, I tend to kind of go down memory lane, and the song 25 kind of came from that place of this very kind of autobiographical song of me just looking back on my life and where it's led me to this point, and writing about it, I guess. And it was a moment where I think, you know, it was kind of a turning point in one way, because it was a moment where for a split second, when I finished writing the song, I took a step back from it, and almost, it's just a second, but for like a split second, I looked at it almost from an outside perspective, and I went, I think this might be really good, and I think I just might have gotten way better. I don't know, but I think, and so that was really kind of the first major stepping stone of you know, starting to put this album together.
Is that fan reception to that particular track something you've noticed? I mean, it's just for me, I guess, again, as an outsider looking at it and seeing the kind of reactions that track really seemed to fuel online. I guess maybe relatable to the lyrics or that thing. I think we all get reflective around birthdays and stuff, don't we? So maybe it's a universal theme there.
Well, I also think I think, you know, reflective. I mean, we're all going through a very reflective period right now. I mean, no one's been able to leave their house. Like, we're living in such strange times that I think we've all had probably too much time inside our own heads. So maybe people are connecting to kind of that aspect of it. But I also think that the song has a very kind of cinematic, you know, grandiose feel to it that is, you know, it almost has this kind of desperation to it, and it's very emotive. And, you know, I hope that you know, it evokes lots of different emotions. And I think that that's, you know, that's always the music that I try to create, is something that has layers to it, that, you know, you can listen to it once and you might like it, but the more you listen to it, the more you're going to kind of discover new things inside of it, and it's going to make you think in a different way, and you start to kind of, you know, hopefully it will expand your mind and make you start to not necessarily, you know, question things or think differently, or not that you're thinking incorrectly to begin with, but, you know, open your mind the way art should, I think. And so I think that song has a lot of layers to it. And, you know, at least I hope that's a part of the reason that people have, the response has been so, you know, amazing. So,
Yeah,
thanks, guys.
no, yeah. I think you've certainly hit on something there, and I guess it leads on to a grander question. I always like to ask people this when the album's coming out, and I apologize because it's a very tough question to put you on the spot with. But what do you hope these fans take away from the record? If there's a statement that you want to put out to the fans and say, when you listen to this, maybe just for the first time, this is what I really hope the fans take away from it. What springs to mind for you?
Hope. I think that, you know, I think that this album, even though titled Death by Rock and Roll, which again might sound very morbid to some people, that's not the intention of this album. You know, Death by Rock and Roll to me is very much a battle cry for life. And this record, if you give it the grace to listen to it from front to back, you know, the track listing is very important. It really does encapsulate a moment or a time period in my life and the band's life. And that's, you know, that's really important. And so if you listen to it from front to back, it really will take you on a journey, and it really is this kind of complete story. And I think that, you know, even that it starts out very, you know, heavy and dark, and, you know, there's a weight to it. And about halfway through the album, there's this kind of musical shift where the story starts to change a little bit, where it starts to go, you know, there is light at the end of the tunnel, and there is hope at the end of the story. And I think that is something that I don't necessarily know that I was consciously doing that at the time, but I certainly was by the time I was putting the track listing together. But when I was writing that, I don't know that was necessarily conscious at the moment. But now that I've been listening to it ad nauseum for the past year, I really see this record as it's actually a very hopeful record. And I think that is something that we could all use a little bit more of right now, is, you know, a little more hope and a little more rock and roll. So I hope that people
more rock and roll. I like that a lot.
Yeah. So I hope that people see that side of it, and maybe it can give them some solace in these kind of, you know, ridiculously insane times that we're living in, the same way that all the records I love have provided that for me.
Absolutely. No, great themes for this difficult time, and yeah, great musical journey to go on, I'm sure. I'll leave you with this, Taylor, because we look forward to when you are able to come back to the UK like everyone else and do some live shows and do all this stuff. When those shows do come back, it's going to be a unique, great thing where, much like many other artists, everyone's going to know this album back to front, which is not necessarily the case when you first head out on tour with a new record. Sometimes you're playing things the first time, people getting into it. Is there any particular moment on the record that you are very excited about getting up in front of a crowd with?
Well, all of them.
Well, yeah.
All of them. I mean, it's the whole record. You know, I mean, I guess I'll answer with, I'll start at the beginning. I'll start with Death by Rock and Roll. Let's start with the first single and the first song. Like, can we get one song? Let's start there. And then second song, Only Love Can Save Me Now. And then third song, And So It Went. And I'll just keep listing the album. But it's because it's all of them. But, you know, I think every story, you got to start at the beginning. So I'll go with Death by Rock and Roll.
Feels like a big set opener as well. I mean, you must have ideas about set lists and stuff already floating around, I'm sure.
So many, and I can't say them because I don't want to give anything away, but so many ideas. And really, I'm just looking forward to, you know, obviously looking forward to touring. But at this point, I'm just looking forward to getting back into the rehearsal space with the guys, because that's been way too long. Like, I feel like it's withdrawal at this point. Like, it's not. Of course. It's not cool. So hopefully we'll at least be able to start there sooner than later.
Oh, fingers crossed. It's got to be coming soon. Fingers crossed, fingers crossed. Well, in the meantime, congrats on the record. Like I say, people watching this now, you'll be able to go and check it out. I encourage you to do so. And we'll see you in the UK when that is allowed. We hope sooner rather than later.
Yes, fingers crossed. We miss you.
Yeah, good to see you, Taylor. I appreciate it.
You too. All right. Stay safe.
Nice one.